Welcome to Start Before You're Ready, the podcast that proves that you don't need to wait for the perfect moment to begin your journey towards better health and happiness. I'm your host, Kelly Young. Remember, the first step is often the hardest, but it's always worth taking. Hey guys, it's Kelly, and I'm back with another episode of Start Before You're Ready. And I have to tell you the funniest thing before I even say anything about my guest. I can see her house from my window of my office. Literally, I can see her house from the window of my office, but we are in separate houses because that's the only way I know how to do the podcast. And my guest today is such a dear friend, and we go so far back, and there's so much history between us. And I think some of you will know her, but I think she'll be new to some of our listeners, and I'm excited to share her with you. Her name is Varanelli. She has been a dear mom friend of mine since I moved to Ridings at Blue Springs. Well, now we know 22 years ago, because Cameron was 21 years ago. And we both have 4 kids. They line up pretty well together. The only exception would be that Jack is her oldest, and he's actually older than Brandon. So he's between Brandon and Dalton's age. And Dalton is my oldest. And then Joey and Lindsay, our 2 youngest, are born 5 days apart. So there's a lot. And she probably knows more about my kids than any of my friends because we have been mom friends for decades, and she is a great listener, and she understands some of my personal things that I've been through. She's been a great therapist. I know that's not what you were supposed to do as friends, but sometimes our friends are our therapists, and she has been a great therapist and friend for me over the years. She was an original boot camper, so we definitely have that in common as well. When we first started boot camp back in 2009, I convinced her to come do it with us, even though it wasn't really her thing. She didn't really do group exercise, but we got her out to that parking lot. And better yet, we got her to do the our first half marathon. So the reason why we started the Black Friday boot camp was because we were doing a half marathon in Las Vegas on my dad's birthday, and I was asked to raise money for it. I didn't know how to raise money, so that's why I did the Black Friday boot camp. But the marathon itself was another event, and Christine was part of that. So she will talk about that. She's an incredible runner, and we've got a whole lot of things to talk about that. But before I ramble on, I want to let Christine introduce herself. So Christine Varanelli.
Hi. Gosh, Kelly covered a lot of it. I was a school counselor. I just finished my library science degree, so I'm working in a library now, and my babies are my most important thing that I have done. And it's thanks to Kelly. I have to laugh because you said that group exercise wasn't my thing. Exercise in general wasn't my thing. I don't think I'd ever really exercised at all and would never have considered myself an athlete. And so it was through the grace of God that I met Kelly and realized that there's a sport for everybody.
Yes, you were a self-described band girl. You did band and theater and
music. I was a musician.
No, not band. Well, that's a whole nother chapter. But in high school, you didn't do sports. You were more on the...
Yeah, I was more music. I did play badminton and field hockey, but not well. Badminton, I was okay at.
That's another thing I didn't mention that we have in common. We're both from New York. She is from what people would probably think of more when they think of New York. She's from Long Island, and I'm from upstate New York. But that is another thing that we have in common. So let's start with the running. Okay. So Christine had never run a mile before she started doing boot camp. And you were right away, though. I remember when you did boot camp, you were a good runner. You were a strong runner.
It felt very natural. Yeah, Meg took me out for my first mile and promised me that we would, go slow, and we kind of were going to go out to Little River, and it felt great. It just really felt great. So it was kind of a natural thing for me, I think.
I love that. Well, if you guys have heard Meg's story, that is exactly it. I said, Meg, if you can run a mile, you could do a half marathon. No, meanwhile, I'd never done a half marathon. I had no idea what I was talking about. The run to Little River was probably my first straight mile too. And that's exactly like Andrew said, it's exactly a mile to run to Little River and back. Yeah. So we all did the same first mile. I mean, I did track in high school, but I probably never ran a mile without stopping. So that is really funny. And so right away, did you like running when you did it?
I did.
You liked the way it felt?
I liked it right away. I realized I was decent at it. I'm not the strongest person. I can't, I do strength training because as you know, it's important. But running was, I don't know, it was just a natural thing for me. And then there's the competitive piece of me that was like you said, if you can run a mile, you can do 13. And since everybody was doing it, I was going to do it too.
Yeah. We had a lot of peer pressure going on. And most of us had never done a marathon before, or done any type of race before, 5K, anything. So let's talk about your running journey. Like, how did running a mile turn into, brag a minute, Christine, brag about all the marathons you've done and how much you've traveled with running, and give our audience a piece of that, because I think that's super interesting.
Well, so I did that original half marathon with all of you guys just to kind of push myself to see if I could do it. We had our babies were babies, and you and I both had 4 kids who were not even probably just about school age, the oldest. So I needed an outlet, and it was an outlet. So we did that first race, and it was just such a great feeling to finish. I mean, I do remember that last mile where I thought I was going to die, and it was fun. And I think the bug bit me. And shortly after that, I had my oldest has Tourette syndrome, and the National Tourette Syndrome Association was doing, I guess they gave bibs for fundraising to the New York Marathon, and New York being our home, right? I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to raise money for Tourette, and I'm going to run a full marathon. And so that kind of got me into my next step in running, because it was for such an important cause to me, and felt very blessed to have so many people donate. And so as that started happening, I was like, well, now I really have to do it, because now everybody's donated money. And if I don't do it, I'll let everybody down and myself down. So I did. So that was, and Kristen came with me for that race, and she supported me. Best race support ever, because she was in different places, right? And I think from there, I don't know if I don't necessarily say that I ever really loved during the race, but I always love after the race. And I always sign up for something more right away. And I just have decided that I want to run at least a half marathon, if not a full marathon, in every state, because that's my way to travel. Because growing up, we didn't have any money, and we never really traveled much. So I've been to 28 different states now. I did an ultra in Utah and Arizona. It was a 3-day staged race. And then COVID hit and the crazy hit, and I decided to do a 24-hour race on my treadmill, where I completed over 100K on the treadmill, which I don't recommend to anybody. And my feet were never the same after. Well, now they're back, but it took a while. But it's just, for me, it's an outlet. I joined the South Running Club. I met a lot of people who are now lifelong friends for the rest of my life. And when my kid with Tourette turned 14, he wanted to run a half marathon. So as an outlet for him, to help him deal with the tics and the stress, we trained. We worked really hard. We were scheduled to run it was in Virginia Beach. It wasn't the Shamrock, but it was over, it was the Rock and Roll Virginia Beach. And we got down there. It was the weekend of Labor Day. We got down there, and a hurricane was coming through, Hurricane Hermione. And they told us that the race had been canceled at the hotel. And if we left to go back home, they wouldn't charge us for the hotel. So we did. We went back home. Come to find that the race didn't get canceled. Jack was very disappointed. So I reached out to the South Riding runners, who I hadn't met at that point. I hadn't been a part of it, and just said, hey, we're going to run through the neighborhood. If anybody wants to join us tomorrow morning. And Kelly, you came, and a whole bunch of, I think there were 6 other people that joined us. I think it was a total of 7 of us to run a half marathon through the neighborhood. And then some of your other boot campers left water along the route. People cheering with signs. It was really, really touching. And he has gone on to run a full marathon with me. And my other son has also run a half with me. So
incredible. That is incredible. And I remember, Jack, from just to be totally honest, I'm not a big runner, especially now. But even then, I hadn't run more than probably like what I do at Run Club. Well, that's actually for sure, which is 4 minutes at a time. And I was dying when we were running, and Jack was like, coaching me through it. I was like hyperventilating, and we weren't even, I mean, we were, it was a bigger pace than I was used to, but Jack definitely got me through that. So that was pretty impressive. And the whole crew, I can't remember his name, but there was one guy in particular, maybe a little bit older than us, that ran with us. I don't remember his name, but he was big in South Riding running. But yes, that was awesome. We should do that again. So incredible. You've had this experience with your kids, but then something happened where you were told you couldn't run anymore, and that was devastating. Do you want to talk about that, Christine?
Yeah. I mean, and that can get into a whole lot. About 2 years ago, probably now, I started having trouble when I was sleeping, waking up, and my breathing was all off, and I was just really tired, and my running just wasn't the same. And I ignored it because I'm a woman and I'm a single mom and I have 4 kids. And so I just kind of put it aside. And that kind of persisted through the winter. And in April, I was signed up to run the Charlottesville Marathon. And I had been training with one of my friends. She was running a marathon in England. And I went to run it, and it didn't go great. It was slower than usual, but I figured it's the first marathon of the season. It's hot, whatever. Some things happened where I wanted to kind of redeem that race. So I signed up for the Flying Pig Marathon in Cincinnati in May, which is best race ever. If anybody wants to run a marathon, that's the one to run. I still wasn't feeling great. And as I ran that race, I had to stop in the medical tent 3 times. My heart was feeling weird. I was feeling tired. I had no energy. And each time I stopped in the medical tent, they have like the mobile EKGs, and they did an EKG, and they said it was fine. And they said could continue on if I wanted. I could stop if I wanted. And one of the things I love about that race in particular is that they have every mile, they have medical personnel on bikes that are dedicated just to that mile. And they just ride right up back and forth on that mile. So I knew if anything happened, I knew like there were people there. And so again, with my crazy, had to finish the race, and I did, but it just was off. It was by far an hour longer than any race I had ever done at that point. I wasn't feeling well, but had no specific reason. And that was in May. Fast forward a few months into it, in July, I was under a lot of stress. There was a lot going on in my personal life. I was out walking on a Tuesday, and I was on the phone talking to my mom, and I was just telling her about all the stressful things that were going on in my life. And I had to stop because it was just this heaviness I was feeling, and I couldn't breathe. And I thought, well, I'm crying, I'm upset, that's what it is. And I, again, ignored it, and I went home, I laid down, and that was Tuesday. I went about my week, and on Friday, I got up to run an easy few miles with my older son, because we were training for what was supposed to be his first marathon. And it was really hot that week, and we went out to run, and I couldn't make it around the block. I couldn't breathe. I was sweating, and I just thought, I am just really tired. 54, I guess, at the time, menopause, all of the things that you think of as a woman, stress, anxiety. And so we just kind of walked home, and I came home and, again, went about my day, and I'm going to tell Kelly what I had for lunch, and she's going to yell at me, but we had Chick-fil-A for lunch that day. Not too healthy, but I had my shake and my Chick-fil-A, and I just had the worst indigestion. And I thought, okay, what I get from having chocolate shake and all of this other stuff. But it just kind of sat like right under my diaphragm, and I just couldn't release it. And that afternoon I had a meeting I had 2 students coming in to work, because I also work with college admissions, and I had 2 students coming in that wanted to work on their essays. And so I worked with them, and I worked through it, but I just wasn't feeling good. And usually, like, you have indigestion, you take a gas, you lay down, you're fine. It didn't go away. So that was Friday. I went to bed. I woke up at 2 a.m. Saturday morning, and the pain was right under my diaphragm, really bad. And I thought, maybe it's my gallbladder. So I woke up my oldest, and I said, I think I need to go to the ER. I think I'm having a gallbladder attack. And he woke up. We got in the car, and he was half asleep, because when you wake a 23-year-old up in the middle of the night, they're half asleep. So I'm like, just sit next to me. I will drive to the ER, but I just need to have you with me. So I drove to the ER, and I got there, and they said, well, because you're 54, we have to do an EKG. That's just what we do. Then we'll do the ultrasound of your stomach. And the EKG was abnormal. And that's when they started. Then they took blood work. They did do the stomach, the abdomen, and all that workup. And hours later, the doctor came in, and he said, well, your gallbladder's fine. That's good news. But your troponin is really elevated. And that's a marker for a heart attack. And so then, long story short, right, did all of these other tests and whatever, and they found that I had actually had a heart attack that day. Earlier in the week. I had what they call a silent heart attack. So because then they took the blood levels again, and the troponin was decreasing. So they knew that I was out of the woods as far as I wasn't having that active heart attack at that point, but it had happened. And I was very fortunate because through college admission work, one of the doctors in the ER that day, I had worked with his children on their college stuff. So he came in just to kind of check in on me and take care of me, which was really great. So I received really good care from the hospital. But yeah, then I did a series of tests. And it was an MRI that showed thickened lining of my heart wall, which I did not know I had. And so they told me that I needed to take at least 6 months off, possibly forever, from running, until we really saw if anything would reverse, what would happen. And the way that it was explained to me was like, your heart could be, it's like a rubber band, right? And when your walls of your heart are thick, they don't stretch and release the way that most normal hearts do. And so for me, the stress made it clench, and it was just harder for it to release. And that's what caused what had happened. But anyway, so I took my...
Do you think that you did a good job of listening to your body?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I
Let's get a lesson out of this. I mean, your body was screaming at you, Christine.
It was.
And you just continued to ignore it.
I think that women do that to ourselves a lot.
Yeah, I can see a lot of people doing it. But I think the lesson is, don't. I mean, you were really fortunate.
Yes, very much so. And I think that, sometimes the messages we get, and it's not just women, but, oh, that's just anxiety. Oh, that's just stress. Oh, that's that heart palpitation. That's just, Kelly, you know me, and some of the other listeners know me. I am a high stress person. I am very tightly wound. And I've had anxiety my whole life. I have a diagnosed anxiety disorder. So for me, a panic attack, anxiety attacks, those have happened. This was different. And I knew it was different, but I still had so much else I had to do on my plate that I just ignored it.
Okay. Do you want to talk about your sister at all?
Yeah. So my younger sister had a stress-related heart attack when she was 37. They don't think that the two are related. We did a whole bunch of genetic testing, both of us, but who knows, right? Don't know.
I would just think that might have made you think a little bit more, maybe a little bit more nervous, just because of your sister.
Yeah, but you know what? I think for my whole life, I had worried about having a heart attack, and for my whole life, I was told, "You're just stressed. It's okay." And her signs were not the same as mine, which is the other interesting thing. And hers were not your typical heart attack signs either. So mine was the indigestion that doesn't release. Hers was jaw pain. And she went in because she had jaw pain, and same thing, troponin, sky high troponin levels. Yeah. So I think it's important to know as a woman and a man too, but that we don't usually have the tightness in your chest feelings. You can have pain in your back, pain up and down your arm, your jaw, and indigestion or nauseousness, sweatiness, All of those are signs that people sometimes think are something else.
Those definitely, yeah. I can see, I've heard the arm. I feel like I've heard neck, but maybe it was jaw.
Well, I'm sure it probably can be. I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. But like, it's that whole area, right? And back between your shoulder blades is another place where people will feel pain. Yeah. I mean, and I think that I've learned more and more about silent heart attacks and how that happens. And it is, you're right. I did not listen. I did know it was different. And I still ignored it anyway. I have learned to be better, though.
Yeah. No, the whole point of this podcast is to educate. And people hearing that, especially because a lot of women and men have anxiety, and the presentation was similar to feelings that you had before, but it was like, Christine, until it shook you.
But waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to sync my breath up, all of that, absolutely it was. And I think there's another thing too, where people kept saying to me, but you're so fit. Yeah. You're in such great shape.
Which is the biggest myth. And running, being fit and athletic, I'm sure made your heart attack less, the severity of your heart attack, but it is a bad thing in that it often masks because you are so fit. Like there's a saying that doctors have. They don't like something about not like, I think you said it to me, your doctor said it. They don't like fit people. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my doctor said that he doesn't like runners because we don't want to take the time off.
Well, that's yes. But there's another thing that doctors will say that the problem with fit people is the presentation is a little bit different. So I think that's a great lesson.
And you go in and they don't think automatically that that's what it's going to be. And that's how it is.
Yeah. Well, and that's why they probably have the protocol. Hey, you're in your 50s, we're doing an EKG right away, which is great. And it's also great that you went to the hospital that night. We got to give you a little credit for waking up and going to the hospital. That was good. And it was very scary. I remember talking to you right afterwards, and it was scary not only for surviving the heart attack, but like what your future was, because such a big part of your identity was running. And that was something that you loved. And that was something that was your stress relief, and something that was your travel and your social and all your things. And it was taken away from you immediately without a promise to give it back, which I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that, how you got through that mentally.
Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly. You hit everything, all of the pieces. It was my entire identity. It was everything. It was my stress relief. It was my social side. It was hard because, and most of my friends will tell you, I didn't say anything to most people. There were very few people who knew, because I was trying to process it all. I was trying to process not just that being taken away from me, but there was a moment when I was in the hospital where I was like, wait, I'm on my own. I'm really alone. And I know I'm not alone. And I've learned that. But it was this moment of, I can't die yet, because there's all of these things I need to do. And now I don't even know where to begin, because now I have to start over and find other things and find other places. And so it was, I mean, I still remember I was at KK's pool and I had my little heart monitor on, because I had to have one of those heart monitors, and people were like, what is that? And that was a month later when I told people. You know, I mean, I know you knew, and there were a few other people who knew, but like, it just was a really private and personal thing for me to work through the depression that I was feeling. That's what it was. And with all of the anxiety and mental health things that I have battled through my life, depression was not one of them. And so that was also this moment of like just feeling very lost. I had a few things that gave me purpose. I was in school. I had already started school at that point. I had my kids, you know.
Of course.
There was that.
Well, I'm going to brag about your kids for a minute, because I love them all, and I've known them all since they were babies, and I'm so proud of what they've accomplished and what you've accomplished as a mother. Any mom that's a little bit younger than us, please know that there is a lot of bumps along the road, and it is not easy. And being a mom is so hard. And when your kids have any struggles, the mom feels it 100 times. And all of our kids, there's always struggles. There's always something that they're struggling with. And while our kids were probably different, the things that they enjoyed and the things that they struggle with, a lot of it's the same. It's all the same. It's just kind of getting through those tough chapters. And Christine's kids are thriving. So Jack graduated from Bucknell. He's now working on an advanced degree in something really smart.
Chemistry. In chemistry.
Chemistry. Yeah. Okay. And our little Brinny is a senior at UVA, and she's
just been accepted at a few MSAT programs for her master's in athletic training. So she's looking forward to figuring out where she's going to land next. And she would love to work for the Washington Nationals as their athletic trainer down the road. But she's, double major in kinesiology and Spanish. Yep, she brings a bunch to the table. That girl works really hard. And then Liza changes her major every semester. I think currently it is psychology with a pre-occupational therapy concentration in neuroscience minor.
But she stayed in the science field, so that's not really changing your major.
Well, she applied to college as an English major.
Oh, well, that's changing your major. I always thought she was science when she's at University of Richmond.
Yeah, she's at University of Richmond and loving the theater department there. She's in all the plays, and she has a radio show.
DJ.
And so there, yeah.
Very diverse. I love it. And our little Joey, our little caboose.
Yes, our little Joey, who's 6'3". So I keep calling him the little brother, but he's just not, is studying drum performance. He's thinking about a minor in music repair, instrument repair at Berklee College of Music.
Oh, wow.
Another drummer boy. Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah. And he was in a band. And Christine was in a band. Talk about your band.
What? So talk about needing a stress relief. Right after I had Joey, right? Yeah, it was right after I had Joey on my 38th birthday. I decided that I had always wanted to play drums. And I've been a piano player my entire life. That's how I went to college. I went on a piano scholarship. Classical, not any kind of modern type music. And so I walked into Bach to Rock on my 38th birthday, and I signed up for drum lessons. And then one thing led to another, and I got involved with the band, and I love those people so much. They are just great people, and we played for many years together, and now we just do a podcast instead of playing because we're all moms and have busy lives.
I love it. Well, I love that so much. And that was such a fun chapter. And you've really taken yourself outside of your comfort zone. So one of the standard questions, I think we've done this, I think we've answered it multiple times, but I want to hear your probably the example that you feel like stands out the most. So the name of this podcast is Start Before You're Ready. And you've given several examples of that. But what would you say in your life was the biggest thing that you did before you were truly ready?
Just having kids count.
I thought you were going to say that. I was like, I thought you were going to say that.
I was almost 32 when I had my first, but I still wasn't ready. And God love him, but he was not an easy baby either. So, and there were no babies on either side. So we just didn't know what we were doing. And I think it turned out okay.
Turned out great.
But that would be one. And then the more recent one would be going back to school in my 50s in a very different environment, which if I could talk about that, I'd love to share that story.
Let's talk about that.
So last spring, not this past spring, but spring 2024, as I said, I do college admissions just during the high peak admission season. And so in March, I usually work October through March. And so in March, my work there was done and I was kind of in the rut and trying to figure out my life. This was pre-heart attack. And I was having dinner with my third child, Eliza. And she just said to me, well, if you could do anything, what would you do? And I was like, well, I had started back when I had no children. I had started a library science program. And this was like the year 2000. Nothing was online. There was barely internet. And so I was like, I think I have always wanted to finish that. I want to be a librarian. I've always wanted to be a librarian. And that was that for that conversation. And I went to bed, but the thought was there, and I was like, well, let me think about this. I woke up And I realized I needed to find out more. How was I going to pursue this? And I knew the reason why I started and stopped back in 2000, there were a few reasons. One was because we were moving out of state and we were moving to an area where there weren't any library science programs that were really accessible. In this area at that time, it was Catholic University or University of Maryland. There was nothing online. You had to be there. And while, yes, I probably could have done it, it wouldn't have been easy. And I got pregnant. And then I continued to get pregnant. So all of that got put on pause. I was happy being a stay-at-home mom. And then I went back and became a school counselor for a little while and kind of used my other master's degree in the ways that it was meant to be done. And just kind of forgot about the whole library thing until Eliza brought it up. And so that morning I woke up and I Googled library science programs and I found out that Old Dominion University, which is the only state school in Virginia that has, it's actually the only school in Virginia that has a program, had an online program. And all I had to do was submit my transcripts and write an essay. And I am good at writing essays. That's what I do with kids, right? I'm like, well, if I can make kids write essays, I can write an essay. So I wrote my essay about why I wanted to go back to school and what I thought I would do with this and how it would change my life. And then I found out I got accepted, so I started the program, not realizing that online meant technology. And technology, I'm not so great at. So it was a start before you're ready. It just happened so fast, and it was like, okay, you're going to enroll in the summer program starting in May. I was like, wait, what? I had my kids show me how to use Canvas and actually figure out how to work a computer the way it should be used when you're in school. Yeah, it was great, but it was a lot of work, just graduated, but it was a lot of fun. And that first semester I took a class called Culturally Responsive Librarianship, which really changed my life and my outlook. It was just a great class, and it really made me question a lot of my preconceived thoughts and biases in a safe place. And it made me just understand people, and it changed the way I approached things. So yeah, wow. All great experiences.
So good, Christine. So good. And just love that Eliza can get full credit for what you've accomplished.
She took full credit on Saturday when I graduated.
I'm so glad. So this past weekend, Christine graduated from her program. All of her children and her mom were there. And we're I know we're talking about heart attacks and a lot of bad things, but we're skipping a lot too. Okay. Christine's been through a lot. She is incredibly resilient, and I get emotional, but seeing her accomplish this incredible goal and just pursue things that she was scared to do and finish them and be such an incredible mother to her children and such a great friend. I'm just so proud of her. So I literally texted her this morning and said, Christine, I want to have you on the podcast because I love stories. I love resilience, and I love success stories. And I love to see people go after their dreams, even when maybe to somebody else, why is she going, she's already a counselor. She could do anything. She doesn't really need this other degree. But she was interested in it. And she just said this one class that she took changed her life. It changed her perspective. And, you are a lifelong learner, and you're very smart, and you thrive on self-improvement and learning. And that's why your kids are the way they are, because you've shown them that. So I'm just really, really proud of you. And that graduation, that was a big deal, a really big deal for just a lot of reasons. And I'm just glad that it was a special weekend and that your family was there and that you embraced it too. I'm proud of you. You didn't say anything like, oh, well, it's just this. I didn't hear any of that from you this time, Christine. I heard, I'm so proud of myself. I'm so glad I did this. I learned so much. It was a great experience. Now you're working in the field and you already love it. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I just told Kelly, actually, I just got home from work and I got to work with the babies doing baby story time today. So I am working currently as a children's library assistant at one of the public libraries here, and loving every minute of that. My internship over the summer was at a Shenandoah University, and that also was really cool because I got to work with they are a big music school. They have a music conservatory there, and I got to work with their music collection, pulling out diverse voices. So that ties into, right, that class that I took. When I have played piano my whole life, never once was given a classical piece written by a woman to play. In all of the years, through all of my schooling, never once. And so my project over the summer was to pull out women, LGBTQ, Black and African, and Hispanic voices so that we could make those composers more searchable and students could find their music more easily.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. I'm sure that made you very proud to work on that important project.
Yeah, it did. And there's just, for me, libraries they've been changing, but they're about the connections that you make with people. Yes, they're about the books and the resources, but there's so much more that they provide. It's funny because when I did take a couple of those classes in 2000, there was the whole fear, the digital age was starting, right? The fear that libraries were going to disappear and what were we going to do and why are you bothering to get this degree? And they haven't. 25 years later, we still have them. And they're still providing so many services that are just amazing. Today they had a homeschool. They have a homeschool fair every month, and the homeschool students this time it was geography, and they had geography projects. But so it's just the things that libraries offer. It's really great.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah. Our library, and I've never been to it, but I've heard about it. I think one of the Ashburn libraries, you can go and use a laser engraver or I can't imagine.
Yes. Gumspring has a makerspace and Brambleton does. And Brambleton, so Joey, my son, my musician, right, was packing his drums up into his car to go record one of their albums. They recorded it at Brambleton Library. The entire album that's now out on Spotify, recorded at the library. You're bringing your drum kit to a library?
Because they have sound rooms, too. Yep. Do people record podcasts there?
Yep.
It's amazing.
Yeah. The things that you can do, and they have those maker spaces, they have classes. So you can learn, because I don't know how to use sublimation or do any of that stuff, but they have people who can show you, and they have classes, and it's really cool.
That is really cool. Other than that, give us something else that we might not know about the library that we could think of as a resource.
Well, there's notaries available at the library. One of the libraries, it's not ours, does passports as well. There's ESL support, citizenship classes, clubs, lots of different types of book clubs. I'm trying to think. I mean, there's so much. Tutoring services. If you don't want to go into the library, there's books on tape, there's streaming services, there's movies, stuff in foreign languages. You can learn a foreign language. Our particular branch here that's close to us has books in Tamil, Hindi, Spanish. I think they might have one other language. So those are also available.
And you can get on waiting lists. I know I'm terrible. I'm also terrible because I don't take the best care of stuff. So my mom put the fear of God in me with a library book. It was a library book. And so I'm afraid I'm going to spill coffee on it or something. So I don't take advantage of the library as much as I should. And I know you have a huge book collection too. So we sometimes like to have our books at home, but I know I have Ashley, she's on a waiting list for all these books, and she gets notifications when they come in, and she just constantly is cycling through her library books.
Yep. Yeah, you can put them on hold. And you could, put them on hold and pick them up. Say you want to pick them up at a different branch that's not yours, you just set it for that, if you need it.
Yeah. And you really have no reason to have an Audible subscription because you could also do all that for the library. It's wasting $20 a month over here. Okay.
But, I do understand that having your own book collection, too, because there is something
Yeah, no. But there is it's a huge resource. I mean, that's the beautiful thing. It's a huge resource, and it's expanding. Like you said, you would think it's like getting smaller, but it's like no, it's. I mean, that's what people are craving now. That's what we're hearing, that people want, like that third home, that whether it's a gym or the library, or they want a place to go.
Well, and that's what they call them, third spaces, right? Yeah. And that's a common term that we learned, and just that's what libraries are there for. One of the projects I had to do for one of my classes was developing a library of things. A lot of libraries now have the ability to rent out objects instead of just books. So like I studied what the population of Gum Spring might need and who was there. And so like there were different things that I had put together. Dinner kits that included things like a wok, certain spices in the cookbook, so that you'd have that. Blood pressure cuff, hiking kit that had like compasses and maps and backpacks. So that is, our libraries haven't quite gotten to that point in our county. I bet that's where they're moving, but there are a lot of libraries that do have. That's like the next step. Being able to rent things that you wouldn't necessarily normally pay for. Like, let's say you are going to Italy and you want the new cool translator, but you don't want to spend $1,000 on it, that kind of a thing.
Wow. Okay. We are really learning. That's great. Honestly, I'm sure that people are going to be thrilled to learn that. That's really great information. I could talk to you forever, like we always do. I'm going to tell one more quick story, because this is probably out of all of our stories, and we have a lot. Probably the one that stands out to me the most was when we were pregnant with Joey and Lindsay. And what was your due date with Joey? It was like July 31st.
Yeah, it was towards the end of July.
Yeah. And I'm sure for me, it was like July 1st or something. But anyway, because I was always late with my kids, and we were walking. It was hot. It was dark, and it was in the summer. So it must have been like late for us. And we were, I think I was trying to get her out. But I just remember like having like an endless conversation with you. And then, Joey came first. No, Lindsay came first. And then I had Lindsay, and you came to see me in the hospital pregnant. And then I visited you with Lindsay.
Yeah, you brought Lindsay to see Joey. Yeah. You had Lindsay with you.
Which is shocking. I drove to Fairfax Hospital 5 days after I gave birth.
But you did have a picture. I do. You're holding Lindsay.
That is shocking.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so Joey and Lindsay saw each other in the hospital. That's just one of many stories. But yeah, I mean, that's what you get when you live in the same neighborhood for 22 years. You have all these stories.
Well, I mean, to tag on to that, I was at my last appointment at the doctor's when you were in labor, and they knew I knew you.
That's right.
So they told me that you had the baby. You had just had Lindsay, and they told me. So
that's right, because I went to your doctor. You gave me your referral to your doctor. And the doctor told me, do not. I went to my appointment, that's wherever it was in Centerville, and he's like, Kelly, don't mess around. Get to the hospital. I went home. I made lunch for my kids. Talk about not listening. I made lunch. I went over to Meg's. I dropped him. Levi's brother came over anyway, and I got there and
just in time. Well, and you're the one who told me I was in labor with Joey, because I went in that morning and they sent me home. And I called you and I'm talking to you and you're like, you're in labor, go back. And sure enough, I went back.
Isn't it funny with your fourth kid? And the same thing happened with me. I went with Lindsay and I was so embarrassed. They're like, you weren't. And that's why I was scared to go, because I wasn't. And by your fourth kid, you think you'd know. But then it's like all these other things are happening.
I had never gone into labor on my own. My first three were induced. So I didn't know. I knew labor to feel like it's almost violent being induced. It's very
violent.
So like the pain I was feeling with Joey, I was like, oh, feel great. Another should listen to your body. But it to me, that I had no idea, because I had never gone into labor on my own.
And he was early. Joey was early.
They were all 3 weeks early. Yeah. So Joey was probably
3 weeks. That's a lot.
I think Joey was closer to maybe 2 weeks early. I mean, he was 8 pounds 2 weeks early.
Anything else you want to say to our Start Before You're Ready podcast community, Christine? Parting words.
First of all, thank you for letting me be on. And none of this would have happened without you. Kelly, because you have
true.
been, no,
you are a superstar. You're going to have your own path.
You have been running the having Joey safely.
I'll take credit for Joey. Okay,
so
I'll take
much.
credit for that.
Yeah, no, you have been an inspiration. My friends have been an inspiration. Like I talked about how like I felt very alone in the hospital, but I wasn't. And I know that. And I think that that's the other lesson that I learned is that like you have to find those blessings. It's very easy to get caught up in the I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this. And I'm trying very hard to lessen that and lean on the but all of these things are so much like, these are my signs.
Yeah, you've come a very long way. I mean, just, I know exactly what you're talking about is just being, is gratitude and like we talked about earlier, resilience. And well, I've already told you should write a book, but that's just another story. And by the way, Christine helped me a ton with my book when I was like about to just be like, I can't do this. She was like, let me read it. She's like, it's good. She was just, we have so many stories, but really Christine and everybody should have a Christine. That's my message to anybody. Your friends are your lifeline in good times and bad. And, maybe when you're a young mom like we were, you didn't really have time for friends or you didn't think it was that important, but it is. And, you're going to go through stages where different things are going to happen and things will line up and things won't line up, but it doesn't matter. They're always your friends. And, and push came to shove, whatever's needed, be there for your neighbors, be there for your friends. Don't not give them space because you're feeling overwhelmed. That's when you need them the most. Perfect advice. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions about, well, first of all, Christine, are you still doing, or do you still help college students or you want to close that door?
No, actually, I still am working. So my library job is part-time currently, and I'm still working for Bucknell part-time.
But are you still I mean, I know this time of year there's less of it, but.
So it's when I'm actually in reading season, I don't do it because there's a conflict of interest, right? Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, if you have a quick question, I'm more than happy to answer good questions. But, I can't sit down with a student and go through essays and edit just because it's not the right thing.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. That makes a lot of sense. All right, Christine, this was so fun talking to you. I love you so much. I'm so grateful that you gave me your time. She's been up since 3:30, and now you need to go to sleep.
I got to wrap gifts.
Oh, God. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Start Before You're Ready. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might need a little motivation. Ready to start your own journey? Check out our workouts and nutrition coaching programs at kellysbootcamp.net. You can choose from in-person sessions or virtual programs. Set up a complimentary coaching session to get started. Follow along with me and the show on social media at Kellys_bootcamp. Until next time, this is Kelly Young reminding you that the best time to start is always now.